where are you guys at this point, this field camp? And how beneficial was it to have really almost a fourth week of full camp?
Yeah, this was the same schedule we had in 2019. Last year obviously we had, it was different. So when I was at Baylor, we had the same. So I've been able to go back and reference that. It's been really beneficial. You don't get this time when the year comes. When you're getting ready for a game week, you might get a 45-minute offensive and defensive meeting to put the game plan in on a Tuesday. A 45-minute meeting on Wednesday. So to have a lot of time is really vital, and we've tried to keep it fresh. There's times where we'll let them go early. There's times where the coaches need some time to game plan. We've had speakers come in. Tonight's the talent show, so tonight will be make fun of Coach Rhule night. I've told them that'll directly affect how tonight goes will directly affect the schedule on Sunday. So we'll see how tame they are. But I think it's been great. It's what we need. We have a very old team and a very young team at the same time. When I'm up there talking to teams, sometimes it's like I'm talking to two different teams. I'm talking to these guys down here, and I'm like, right, Giff, right, Deshaun, okay. No, all right, guys, now listen in the back. So it's really two teams, and which is fun. So it's been a good time.
Along those lines, is there anything in this setting you would say that you like in particular in terms of intangibles with this team?
This team? I think this team has all the intangibles. At least certainly the veterans guys do. The veteran guys respect the process, and they respect the day-to-day work. So much to me of being a great football team is being in the moment and maximizing every day and every opportunity. The process is not the schedule. It's this mindset of, hey, we're going to dominate the things that we can attack, that we can control. And we have guys who work. Every day I get into it with Ed Foley because, Johnny Bullock or Tommy Hill's running down on scout kickoff, and he's like, Matt, I tell them not to, but they jump in and they run down, and so we have just such a tremendous work ethic with our veteran guys. Our younger guys, it's a work in progress, right? Which it should be, right? They're young, so but they certainly have all of the football character and football integrity they need to learn from is right in that room. Like I'll give you an example. It's hard to have a great team when you have entitlement. When we have a lot of great players who've always gotten things, they sometimes they expect things, right? So you have a kid like Brian Buschini who's is going to be a 3-year starter here. Would that be correct? 3-year starter. He's, I think, an excellent punter. And you got Nayor in 18. You got Prince Will in 18. You got Buschini in 18. And so say to Nayor, hey, you're the last guy here. What number do you want? And Nayor's like, Coach. He tells Garrett, Coach, I'll wear 99 if you guys need me to. And I love these numbers, but I'll wear 99. I come out yesterday. He's in 18. Prince Will's in 18. I look over. Brian's in 13. Brian's like, whatever the team needs. So that might seem like a little thing, but it's not to me. And so I love that character, that integrity, making it more than just about myself. Our older guys, they don't have main character syndrome. They don't think everything's about them. So that should allow us to have a pretty selfless team out there.
Hey, Coach, last weekend you kind of challenged your players and your coaches, saying they're on the cusp of being a really good team and challenging the coaches to watch film. How have you seen that response in the last week of camp?
Yeah, and when I said that last week, I think that's right where you're supposed to be. I don't think we can say we're a really good team until we prove it. I do like the way we've worked this week. I thought this was a challenging week. Week 3 is the highest volume week. This was week 4, and so sometimes people can start to let up, but I didn't sense any let up this week. We'll see how the mock game goes tomorrow. And what we, like on Monday, I didn't have the veterans practice. I had them coach. I had the young guys practice. And really, we're just trying to collect a couple young guys to prove that they're ready to go if we need them. And so if an Amari Sanders comes through, then the team's that much better, right? We know Ja'Cory is already kind of in that mix. Obviously, Dylan's in that mix. But just trying to challenge some of those younger guys, like I said, the Amari Sanders, the Caleb Bennings, those guys, especially on defense, where we have a veteran defense to come through. And I think we're seeing that progress happen. So we'll need another great week of elite preparation. It's a challenge this week. Even as you watch UTEP's personnel, you might be watching an Eastern Kentucky player, then you're watching a UTEP player, then you're watching an Austin Peay player, you might be watching a player from Florida State, as you prepare personnel-wise. And then as you're watching football, you're watching Austin Peay film, you're trying to extrapolate it back to the players they have. So there's a lot of work to be done, and that's the maturity. But I mean, I walked up to MJ Sherman today and said, "What do you think?" And he knew everything. He said, "Hey, I know Wright's going from the left side at Austin Peay. He's going to play the right side there." I mean, he's studied it, and they have good players, and you need to study them and study what they're doing. So I think we're heading in that direction.
When did Dylan Raiola convince you that he was ready to be the starter game one, and why did he win the job?
I felt all along like Dylan could be the starter game one. The problem was I also felt like so could Heinrich. I also felt like so could Danny. And Danny had a really, really, really strong week and a really strong scrimmage too. Why did he win the job? Why did Dylan win the job? I think Dylan puts all the pieces in play, and that doesn't mean the other guys don't. But I think Dylan has elite arm strength. He understands all the run game checks. He understands the entire RPO game. He understands the situational football. And I think he's really cleaned up his footwork in the pocket, which was one of the big things. I know sometimes people want us to name a starter because it's the most convenient thing, but at the end of the day, I mean, we want to be a program where you earn things. And so while you might be ahead of people, until you show me you can do this, you're not the starter. And that challenges people to go do this. And so I think one of the biggest things for Dylan has been, and it's really a lot about young quarterbacks now, is Dylan can drop back and throw it behind his back and probably hit you. He can throw it underhanded. But we don't want to do that unless we have to. And so often now these guys are they're going out and to be evaluated at whatever thing, like they're making all these off-platform throws. But I showed Dylan about 60 reps of Tom Brady, and he's on platform. And so Dylan's worked so hard at his pocket presence, and once he to me cleared that hurdle, I saw how close the other guys were coming, and I feel like he's the starter. But Danny's going to keep working, and Heinrich's going to keep working, and and really honestly, I'll tell you what, if Jalen goes in the game, I feel like Jalen can move the team. So we have 4 guys I feel really confident in to lead the team.
Is there a role that Heinrich Harper can play as a backup quarterback that involves more than just signaling plays?
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen. I probably don't want to give too much out to everybody, but I mean, I think in fairness to Heinrich, I just have so much respect for him as a competitor. That he can go out and do anything. I mean, look at Coach Frost, right? Like, I mean, Coach Frost was one of the great quarterbacks in college football history, and then goes on and plays safety in the National Football League. And that Heinrich reminds me so much of that. Like, Heinrich to me could be a great safety. He could probably be a great linebacker. He'd be a great tailback, wide out, tight end. And so we have the opportunity to use him, when needed. At the same time, I also don't want to lose my number 2 quarterback because, he ran a dive. So there's a fine line there. But we're not going to play this year out of fear. We're not going to play like, what if this goes wrong? I know sometimes that's the way people think. That's the way sometimes I think. But we've made a decision this year that we're going to attack. We're going to go all in on this team and attack with everything we have. And Heinrich's a big part of that, so we're going to use him.
Who do you start at kicker? What's your kicker out?
That's not determined yet. That'll be determined probably. It'll probably be determined late next week, maybe even on game day.
All the way to Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, in my brain, like I said, Eric Crouch told me stories about sitting at breakfast waiting for Coach Gill to tell him who was starting a quarterback that day. There's nothing wrong with that in my mind. You're giving everyone every opportunity to show what they can do, and they're doing a good job. I'd be way more. I'm concerned about the kicking. Make no mistake. I think I've been very transparent with that. Because we have an injury to our starter and some unproven guys. But I'd be way more concerned if we weren't making kicks in practice, if that makes sense. So we are making kicks. Just who's the guy that's going to go out and kick? And we believe in letting our players prove us right. So if Johnny goes out there, if Nico goes out there, we're going to go out. We're going to put the ball down and expect him to knock it through. And if Tristan's ready to go. I think last week Ed or I said he was about 90%. That's true, but 90%, there's a big difference between 90 and 100% in football. You got to be 100%, at that position to really open up and let it rip in Memorial Stadium with those winds that can sometimes show up. So if Tristan's ready and he's the best as of next week, then great. And if not, John has done a great job. So has Nico. So, but that's a story, and that's not gamesmanship. There's nothing I gain from. They don't need to know. They're not trying to figure out who the starting kicker is, right? There's nothing gamesmanship. It's just. Tristan entered the mix late. We're going to take it all the way up till next week and see who the guy is.
Matt, when did you let the quarterbacks know of the decision, and for all three of them, how did they handle that?
The morning that we released it, yeah, I brought Heinrich in first, talked to him. I brought Danny in next, talked to him, and walking off the field, I told Dylan that, hey, we just released a graphic that you're the starter. Yeah, I mean, so it's not really in our world. This isn't really as big as it is maybe outside, right? Like at the end of the day, everyone's really just worried about themselves and competing. And Heinrich, like I said, Heinrich is a Cornhusker. He's a Nebraska guy. Like he's for this team, and I think he recognizes how good Dylan has played. He also understands how the season goes, and he has to keep getting better and better and better at quarterback because he's made a big jump at quarterback from last year to this year. And we can win with him. And he also wants to have another role, so we'll have that ready for him too. And then Danny, I think Danny sees how good he's gotten. And I think Danny recognizes the future he's going to have. So he's just saying, he had said to me earlier in the week, I just take every rep and I'm trying to get myself ready. If you ever need me, I'm ready to go. So we have great character in that room.
Is Heinrich clear number 2 right now?
Yeah, but Danny's battling for it. We wouldn't waste Danny's year in a mop-up situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, we wouldn't put Danny in at the end of the game. Danny gets 4 games. So if all of a sudden we have a couple injuries and he's the starting quarterback, we're going to go win with Danny Kaelin. That make no mistake about it. We're going to go win with Daniel. But we're not going to put him in to hand the ball off for no reason, right, and burn a game. So he's preparing. He brings a lot to the table in terms of throwing the ball. Obviously, Heinrich's a dual threat guy, so Daniel still gets reps with the twos out there. They kind of, they both get reps. But if we went in the game tomorrow, next Saturday, if something were to happen, Heinrich could go in the game.
The freshman crew from Miami has all seemed to do pretty well. What's sort of stood out, I guess, the traits about those guys that put them in an opportunity to help you this year?
Yeah, I love players from the state of Florida, and I love players from 305. Because to me, like they play football. The ones I've had and the ones that are here, they play football like they're out playing Pop Warner football. Like they just love it, right? Like I literally have to yell at Ja'Cory every day and walk through to slow down. Like he has like one speed and one speed only. A lot of other players I have to say, hey, pick it up, go faster. But there's one speed for Ja'Cory Barney, and I think you get the same thing from a lot of the other guys too. So they love to play, they love to compete. The guys we have, they're not entitled, they're very humble, they're grateful, and they just work. I mean, they work. Amari works. V9 works. He tries to get better and better and better. And so I think when you work like that, obviously they're freshmen. The first game will probably be, but like the game's not too big for them because, they've been playing in big games since they were this big, and if you know what youth football is like down in that area, it's elite. But they're just great competitors from great families, and we're blessed to have them all.
One more. Hey, Coach, you got Fan Day tomorrow. What's that day mean to you, and any weird things you've signed in the past?
Oof. I can't think of anything weird. I can, but I think the one unique thing sometimes is that sometimes people will, I've been honored. I'll say that I've had people, whose fathers passed away, and they've brought me like a flag from them being in the military. They'll sit in my office. So sometimes I'm like honored with what it means to be the head coach at the University of Nebraska and how much that means to people. And so, they told me, there's 900 kids signed up, for me to sign stuff for. And obviously I love kids, and, we do all the pictures of all the kids at youth camp. It's about 1,000 pictures a day, and we love it. We want those kids growing up to be Huskers. And so Fan Day is great. It's great for our players to recognize all the people that are there for them. It's a big day tomorrow, it's a mock game for us. It's the Boneyard Bash. All the students come out, the freshmen. For me, it takes on a special meaning in that, my son is a freshman here now. Moved in the dorm the other day. Like I can see the anticipation for that. So Fan Day, Boneyard Bash. I think it's a really special day for us to reconnect with everyone kind of at the end of camp. It's great that we have a chance to share Fan Day with the volleyball team. I have so much respect for them. I have 2 girls in my house that live and die with what those guys do. And so, and then, it's really our last practice. It's our mock game before we get into game week. And college football starts tomorrow, right? So, Florida State plays in the morning, end with SMU at night. I mean, there's going to be a lot of great things tomorrow. So, it should be a great day.
Do you ever want to go to Ireland for a game and play there like Nebraska did before?
Yeah, I would love to go overseas. When I was at Baylor, I kept trying to get us to have a game in Mexico. I kept saying like, hey, let's play a game down there. I like neutral site games. Like, when I was one of the guys pushing for when we played in Cincinnati in a couple of years and playing them in Indy. I think when you're playing non-conference games and you can play them at neutral sites, that's interesting. Especially, it's a kind of a cheat code for us because we can, Nebraska, Husker Nation will turn a neutral site into a home site. So I think it's really powerful for us. But I'd love to have the opportunity to take our guys overseas and experience that, and I think we'd make it fun as long as we have a bye the next week. But yeah, I would be into that. I think when I got here, there was sort of we were kind of putting up. When I walked in, there was a lot of things. I got asked about the alternate uniforms. It was kind of like, hey, we're moving away from alternate uniforms. Hey, we're moving away from overseas trips. There were a lot of things that were kind of being directed. And that's fine. I don't care about those things. My job is to rebuild the team, rebuild the roster. I mean, you start getting worried about too many other things and you don't really do your job. And so I focus on that. But if an opportunity came, I would certainly do that for our guys. Trev flew me and Julie out here to see Nebraska. And then we went home and Julie and I were like, hey, no momentum. Let's go make a decision. And we went to Ireland just to get away, just her and I, and we got off the plane, and there was this 200-foot Husker helmet, and I was like, it's a sign from God. All right, let's go to Nebraska. So, but I do think I think with a brand like ours, we when we go different places, right, like people, it attracts people to us. If I go out anywhere in the country, outside the country even, people, I'm going to see someone that's going to say, go Big Red to me. So I would love it if we had that chance someday, but it's not in the cards anytime soon. Sure.
As you shift to game week, just taking a step back and looking at camp as a whole, is there 1 or 2 things that you're most pleased with, the way things went, like how this camp went?
Yeah, there was never a practice that I was disappointed in. The young guy practice this week, I could maybe say that for some guys, but when I watch the tape, there were other guys. But there was never a practice where I was like, man, we just don't get it. It's actually quite the opposite. We did 9-on-7 on Tuesday, and on Wednesday I came out and there was no 9-on-7 in it. And as I walked out, I looked at Donnie. He's like, "Did you watch the 9-on-7?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "I haven't seen it. I haven't seen us play like that in a while." Now all that's just words if we don't play that way next Saturday. Let me say that, and I'm the first person that's like that. Practice doesn't mean you're going to win a game. Practice just gives you an opportunity to compete to win the game, and so you have to play well on game day. But there's just never been like a lull in terms of that, and then we've had very few distractions. We've had very few issues. We've had a couple, which you're going to have on a team, but we've had very few distractions. And for by and large, other than Teddy's injury and Roger's injury, we've come out of things pretty healthy. Anyone else?
What is it? Why did that 9-7 make a big impression? Why did the 9-on-7 make a big impression?
We were just so physical. It was good on good. We call it, black on black, and it was physical at a level that in week 4 of training camp, sometimes guys aren't willing to go to anymore because they start saying, hey, the game's 14 days out, and I mean, really the last scrimmage and then that Tuesday, there was a play last week where Micah and Ben were just pushing someone and laying out to push them, and Nash got knocked down and he spun up and he got up off the ground, he laid out on top of somebody. It's just the way we want to play football. When we play next Saturday, people won't, I want to win the game, don't get me wrong. I want to be happy in the locker room. But contentment will come from the film and the way we play. It will not come from the scoreboard. And so there's a way that we want to play. And I just loved the way 9-on-7 looked on Tuesday. And I loved the way some of the scrimmage reps looked. And so hopefully we carry it over next week. All right, thanks, guys.